Let's talk about marking buttonholes. To do this, you'll need some sort of marking thing. Chalk. This is a chalk wheel, but it's not working very well right now, so I'm not going to use that. And then something to measure with. A seam gauge. This is a Simflex. And then some kind of ruler. Like this one. Okay. This is extremely gendered, but menswear typically overlaps left over right, and women's wear typically wraps right over left. This is important because if you are used to getting dressed one way and then you have to button the other way, you will feel as though you have never buttoned a shirt in your life, and it will be strange, I promise you. So for this one, I'm going to mark the buttonholes on the left-hand side. So the left's going to be overlapping over the right. You can see here I tried with the chalk wheel, but it's really not having it today. So I'm changing to this piece of chalk. On a shirt, the top button that's in the stand goes horizontally and all other buttonholes go vertically. So we're going to mark this first one in the stand, and it's going to go horizontally parallel with the stand line. Like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark in the center front of my shirt. The center front is where this collar attaches into the stand. And I'm going to mark that all the way down my button extension. It's going to be halfway across this button extension. I like to mark it all the way down. Okay, if there's a bit that's a bit off, I'll fix it just by flicking out the chalk. This is not so great if you are taking it somewhere to get done. You want to make sure you're marking it in a really clear way. There we go, it's better. Okay, now the general rule of thumb is your buttonhole will begin about 2 millimeters to the side of where you want the button to sit. So where the button shank begins, so we will mark in on this top button there. You can see it's to this side of where the actual center front is. And I'm just going to go get my buttons. Okay, so now I'm going to sit the button over here. The thickness of the chalk gives me the width of the button hole. Okay, so there we are. So what's going to happen is the button shank is going to sit on this side on the center front, which is why we needed to mark this end of the buttonhole to this side of the center front. The first button is going to go about 1.5 to 2 inches below this stand. So I'm going to say 2 inches, and I'm going to mark in the top only. Okay. Then what I can do, and what I need to do is set the rest. This Simflex is really handy for this, but you don't have to use this. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes, and I can just expand it. It just basically makes things the same distance apart. So I think that's going to be about right. And then what I can do is just go ahead and mark each one, and they'll be exactly the same distance apart. You do not have to have a Simflex. You can do it just as easily by determining the distance you want between on a seam gauge, just marking, marking, marking all the way along. So that's how you do the center front. I'll show you the cuffs next. Here is my sleeve. So there's my placket. You want to make sure the placket is overlapping perfectly, just as you want it to. Okay, and then the buttonhole is going to go in line with the center of the placket, and it's going to go horizontally halfway down the cuff. Okay, there's that line matches up. I'm going to go slightly this way of it. So there it is. Okay. Usually you'll take your button in with you to get them made, and they'll determine the correct length of the buttonhole. Make sure you do some tests of your buttonholes before you do them into your actual garment. Hope that helps.